Good morning, Wellspring. Oh, that's much, much better. I'm a part of your Sunday, June 26th service team. My name is Judy Bethman. Early birds meet Sunday morning at 9:30 via Zoom. Link is in the weekly email and on the website. Upcoming speakers in July. July 3rd is Reverend Kamatara. July 10th is Dr. Edward. We have a guest or a video. I think it's a video. And then the 24th and 31st is Dr. Edward and Randy Granger will be on the 31st. So I will change that for the next week's slide. Okay, we have a movie night and ice cream social coming up July 10th at 7 p.m. The movie part is The Secret Part 2. And so if you love ice cream, which very few people don't, come at 7 p.m. The Thursday evening group will begin a series of videos by Greg Braden, a 5-time New York bestselling author, scientist, international educator, and renowned as a pioneer in the emerging paradigm based in science, social policy, and human potential. Each evening will consist of a video by Greg, followed by a discussion amongst the group. The first 4 weeks will cover the 7 Essene mirrors, followed by 4 weeks of other coaching topics. This series begins July 7th at 7 p.m. and will last for 8 weeks. Meeting will be held in person in the Wellspring Social Hall and on Zoom. See Ed or email Edward or Cleona for more information. And lastly, our prayer team remains ready to serve and support you. You may submit your prayer requests via our webpage. Our prayer team meets virtually on Tuesday afternoons at 4:15 to pray with you. You may consider sitting in your quiet space during that time. We know that we are one in spirit, and the energy of prayer knows no limits. All right, now it's time for the invocation. So everybody take a deep breath in and exhale. As we breathe, we are inviting Spirit to come into this service and be a part of our Sunday service team, as well as part of your daily life. Every breath you take, Spirit is involved with that. We know that, we rejoice in that, and we release that, saying, and so it is. All right, now we're going to sing a song, When You're Smiling. When you're smiling, when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, you bring on the rain. So stop your sighing, be happy again. So keep on smiling, for when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're laughing, just keep on laughing. The sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, it brings on the rain. So stop your sighing, be happy again. So keep on smiling, for Thank you, everyone. People must have been crying a lot this week because we got a lot of rain. Now, for most parts of the country, that's not a blessing. But for this part of the country, we are truly, truly blessed. All right, now's the time to do our vision, mission, and affirmation. Our vision, to elevate spiritual consciousness in our world. Our mission, to support individual spiritual quests through celebration, study, counsel, loving fellowship, and service. Our affirmation, as summer heats up, I am replenished with the healing waters of love and kindness for myself and others. My faith buoys me to be a fount of compassion in tough times and in joyful time. I flow with the divine expression that is my life. And so it is. And it's now my great pleasure to introduce back to our little session here, Teresa Tudry. Did I do it right? No. No. Say it again.
It's Teresa.
Teresa Tudry. Okay, with it's a 3-syllable.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Catalan Basque name.
Tudry. Well, mea culpa. Okay.
No, thank you. Nobody gets it right. Thank you. No, not to worry. Not to worry. Okay. Thank you for having me again. It's always a great pleasure and honor to put my music into service for the highest, and always wonderful to hear you, Dr. Edward. This song is called Why. I wrote this for my little nieces. Is this on? I wrote this for my little nieces because we don't hear much about the wonder of nature and the spirit that has created us. So I thought it might be a nice song for them. Why did the sky appear and form an atmosphere so we could all live here? How did the rains come down and make the rivers flow so everything could grow? When did the plants unfurl and come to all agree that they'd feed you and me? Who do I go to with my song of love and praise? You, I'll build my altar to you right here where the horses graze. Why did the dog and cat forever cease to roam, to call our house their home? When we shear the curly lamb, thank the sacrificial ram, the goats and cows for milk, the crawling worm its silk, the honey from the flower by the bee, the creatures of the sea, the wings that churn the air. For these treasures everywhere. with my song of love and praise. You, I'll build my altar to you right here where the horses graze. How did this dream come true of a human being, though a pauper, still a king? And why did the stars align to make this world so fine, this world of yours and mine? Who do I go to with my song of love and praise? You, I'll build my altar to you right here where the horses graze. Here where the horses graze. Here where the horses graze.
That was just lovely. I always marvel at people who have the poetry inside them as well as the music. That's truly a gift from Spirit. Yeah. Oh, yes. Well, now's the time for the reading. And when Edward told me what his topic was, I thought, I'm going to sing instead of read. What? Yes, okay. His topic is Don't Fence Me In. Now, when I looked up, I was very surprised to see that this was a Cole Porter song, because I always thought it was an old-timey cowboy song. And it is. Essentially, it's the story of a felon who is going to be taken to the pokey by the sheriff. And then he sings the song to the sheriff. Oh, give me land, lots of land and the starry sky above. Don't fence me in. Let me ride through the wide open country that I love. Don't fence me in. Let me be by myself in the evening breeze. Listen to the murmur of the cottonwood trees. Send me off forever, but I ask you please, don't fence me in, just turn me loose. Let me travel by my saddle underneath the western skies. On my cayuse, let me wander over yonder till I see the mountains rise. I want to ride to the ridge where the west commences, gaze at the moon till I lose my senses. I can't look at hovels and I can't stand fences. Don't fence me in. Don't fence me in. Don't fence me in. up what a cayuse was. Anybody know what a cayuse is? It's a pony, or there is an Indian nation called the Cayuse. So, who knew? Well, it's my distinct privilege to present to you Dr. Edward Burlbaw. And his, not the same, don't fence me in. Okay.
Thank you, Judy. Well, the first sentence of my talk today was not a reference to the old country song. However, sometimes I get these titles of my talks, and then I have to fill in the blanks afterwards. But when I get the title, then it starts fermenting, if you will, to make a good beer or wine in my mind. So the talk is really about our limiting beliefs, the limits we place on ourselves, not to be confused with the hoosgow that he was going to be placed in by the sheriff, but as a result of his own actions, I would presume. There's an old story about the elephant. And as a baby, the elephant is tied down or staked into the ground with a rope around its leg. And the elephant continues to fight that until it discovers that it cannot pull the stake out. So eventually, it just gives up, accepts its fate, and remains tied. But now the elephant grows up. It gets much larger than it was as it was young. Strong legs, tusk, that proboscis that can do all sorts of things. But yet in its mind, it is still tied fastly to a stake. Somehow, it has grown up to believe that it cannot pull that stake out and that it can never get away. So, now, as humans, we create a different kind of stake for ourselves, a different kind of tied up, a different kind of limits, our limiting beliefs. One might say that our limiting beliefs are kind of come into three varieties. One is about ourselves, the other is about life, and the third, we might say, is about the world. But where do we get our limiting beliefs? Well, there's a number of factors, of course. But we get them kind of out of our brain, in a way, because our brain tries to protect us from pain. Protect us from pain right now, or perhaps in the future. And of course, these triggers include fear, for example, and past experiences. 2 weeks ago, we spoke about judgment and how we move from judgment to loving, healing, and evolving. And I think there's a real parallelism between judgment and limiting beliefs. A limiting belief is simply a judgment about ourselves that we think to be true and that somehow restricts us in what we're trying to do. And we may get our limiting beliefs in very much the same places that we get our judgments. Often, like the elephant, our limiting beliefs start at a young age and progressively evolve and reshape through our life as we encounter new experiences. And depending on how we react to those experiences, we can reinforce our limiting beliefs. First time the elephant tried to pull on the rope, as it got a little bigger and it still didn't give, they said, oh, okay, I guess it's true. That rope is never going to let me go. So if we've had a painful experience, that can reinforce our limiting belief. And so in the future, we become hesitant to face or encounter similar experiences. And also our limiting beliefs can prevent us from forming new positive beliefs. So as a child, as the elephant, perhaps something traumatic happened. And those feelings from that moment can become stuck in our psyche, like the record with the skip on it. So whatever choice we made to remain safe at that moment, we play that out over and over as we grow up, therefore reinforcing it. In another place we might get our limiting beliefs, short of our childhood experiences, would be the family that we grew up in. For better or for worse, that familial experience shapes what we believe about life and how we interact with the world. Some of us here are probably of the age that we have parents who grew up during the Depression era. My father was much older than most when he started a family, and so we did share that experience, so to speak. We shared his thoughts about what the world might be like. My mother was a little bit younger, but yet to hear of her childhood, it was also one somewhat in poverty, but not dire poverty. My dad used to tell stories about riding the rails and the hobos and things like that. And so I always felt as a child that I was like a generation behind in my thought system from my peers, because their children or their parents had them when they were much younger and had then been sort of the post-war era, certainly the post-Depression era. But anyway, just like judgments, our limiting beliefs, once we put them in place, are very hard to remove. Someone says that our limiting beliefs can also keep us from taking action to be our most authentic and powerful self. This is called change blindness. Change blindness keeps us from seeing anything inconsistent with our current reality. And that's a reality that was created by those pesky limiting beliefs. I'm always reminded of an expression that Reverend Sam used to use, and he said, "Today is yesterday's newspaper." So when we're governed or ruled by our limiting beliefs, we only see what we're prepared to see. Nothing more, nothing less. And we can be blind to other possibilities. And it strikes me that this can easily be applied to the political divisiveness we see in our world today. And as an old professor of mine used to say, the exercise is left to the reader. Think about that and see how the limiting beliefs that we each have prevents us many times from seeing the validity of the other side, or I even shouldn't use the word side, but seeing the possibility. So if we want to eliminate or at least manage our limiting beliefs, first thing we have to do is know the cause of our limiting beliefs. Again, this is a very similar parallelism to judgments. Where does all this come from? So I'll give a few helpful suggestions later on. As I said, there are sort of three general categories of limiting beliefs. Those limiting beliefs about ourselves is the first one. that make us feel like we can't do something because something is inherently wrong with us. So that might be, I don't have time, or I don't have what it takes. Sometimes I've heard people say, well, I don't have any self-control. I don't trust myself with, and you can fill in the blank. Many times that's with abundance. I'm not strong enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't deserve love. I can't be my real self because I may get judged. You and I are unique, undeniable expressions of God. We must be ourselves. There will never be anyone else like me, like you. Someone once said, "What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? If all the and buts were removed?" And who's in charge of those and buts? We are, right? So then there's those limiting beliefs about life. Make us feel like we can't do something perhaps because the life is stacked against us. Oh, it takes money to make money. I didn't grow up in the right neighborhood. My parents were blue collar, so I can't go to college. Nobody will hire me because I'm too old. It's too late to pursue my dreams. Some of you may have heard this example. At the age of 65, this was in 1955, Colonel Sanders traveled across the United States, going from restaurant to restaurant, knocking on doors, and cooking batches of his chicken for the restaurant owners to convince them to franchise his chicken. In 64, at the age of 74, he sold his company to the investors for $2 million. Now in 64, $2 million was a pile of change. We have a couple of avenues in Las Cruces to experience the same thing. Some of you have heard about the New Horizons Band, the New Horizons Orchestra. There's a Senior Olympics, just to name a few. So maybe an affirmation. It's never too late to pursue anything. What's more important is that I take action now. Age is just a number. My current age is just a reflection of the number of years I've been alive, not a reflection of my unlimited power as a being. My dreams are mine for the taking. Whatever I can conceive, I can achieve. It's up to me to take the steps to make things happen. Now, this is a very interesting thing, the idea of conceiving. Where do these ideas come from? The thoughts of, here's a dream that I have. Well, everything that you conceive comes from some people might call it the mind of God. It comes from spirit. It is spirit trying to express itself through you. So why would spirit lay a trap for you to try something that you're going to fail at? That's not my understanding of how spirit works. So let's move on to limiting beliefs about the world. The world is a cruel and unjust place. There's not enough to go around, be it food or money or whatever. This sense of scarcity or poverty consciousness that we might buy into. And of course, this one sort of fits in at least two of the three categories. It's probably apropos to many of us here. I live on a fixed income. With inflation going up, what will I do? Social Security is not going up as fast as inflation. We can create for ourselves a huge burden, if you will. Another one, if you have money, you can't be spiritual. Where did we come up with that idea? So let's look at it this way. My job or Social Security or my 401k is not my source. Spirit is my source. I succeed simply because I can. I'm a shining expression of Spirit. By being successful, I have more resources to achieve my highest goals and dreams and to support the highest good of mankind. We talk about the power of attraction, how we can use that. If you recall, that was kind of the main theme of the first movie of whatever it was, The Secret. The subtitle for the second movie is Dare to Dream, by the way. But we sabotage ourselves with our limiting beliefs, and then we wonder, why doesn't this power of attraction thing work? Someone might say, I want or I need a new car, but it has to be this, and it has to have that, and it has to be that. Why not open the possibility of this or something better? What if you're being too small or restrictive in your thinking? A couple weeks ago, my daughter's car was stolen. And of course, it was a very traumatic thing for her and for her family. She has 2 kids. Car seats were gone, lots of things, toys, stroller, things like that. But I talked to her a few days later. I talked to her when it happened, but I also talked to her a few days later, and she said, you know what? This car was actually a little small for our family. Once we got us and the 2 car seats in there, we didn't have any room for luggage, for anything. She says, well, we're gonna get a bigger car that better suits our family. She's in the process of that, but I affirm for her that this is unfolding in perfect divine order. So when we desire something, let's say, what are the basics of what it is we're trying to attract? And then just release it and let Spirit bring us things that meet our needs and then some. So let's kind of do a little mental thing here. How do we overcome our limiting beliefs? Well, we just have to do a little bit of work. Oh my gosh, and I don't have time for that. You caught it. Yes, there's that one again. But before we even do that, we have to recognize that our limiting beliefs are, well, limiting. Limiting the joy, the abundance, the love we could have in our life, and that it's worth changing them. Let's get ourselves pumped up with the results that we can achieve. It's kind of like setting the intention and set it with elevated emotion. That's what sets the power of thought, the power of prayer moving. It's much more than just a thought. It's a feeling. So the first step is identify and write down your beliefs. Sometimes these beliefs are just fleeting thoughts, but yet they control what it is we do. Maybe we never even say them out loud. Well, let's get them down on paper. We can look at them. We can then separate the fact from the fiction and maybe allow us to see how untrue they really are. So we take the second step, which is assess how accurate these limiting beliefs are. And then, look at them a little deeper. Next time you have a negative belief, take a moment and pause and analyze the thought. What you're doing is developing a process rather than reacting. You can actually look at is this serving me? So is it a limiting belief, or is it something that has, real concrete evidence to back it up? So ask yourself, is the thought coming from fear of the unknown or from a past experience? Then, of course, there's the step 3 is use positive affirmations. Now, positive affirmations work best if they are sort of based in what it is we're trying to resolve. So look at what it is you're trying to resolve and rephrase that into something that's a little more positive. And I provided a couple of examples above. And of course, you have to say the affirmations. It's a good step to get them written down, but you do have to say them. And lastly, never give up. Remember, you're not alone. All of the universe, of its unlimited possibilities, is supporting you in that. So just persevere. I frequently remind myself of the old expression, it's always darkest before the dawn, to allow me to just push a little further. So don't quit. The good is about to come your way. Now, of course, I have a story to tell about myself. As I was writing this, I thought, dang. A few weeks ago, I went fishing. We were up in the Columbia River, and I hooked a rather large sturgeon. And I was working on that thing. I kept working on it, and I kept working on it, and I was getting tired, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So I tapped out. My brother, Fred, take it. You can bring him in. And so 2 minutes later, he brings the fish up to the side of the boat. And he says, Edward, you did all the hard work. Why'd you quit? Okay, so that kind of applies here. And I also say that our limiting beliefs are not bad. They're not evil. They're just something that we've selected to grow from. So we don't want to fight them. We don't want to hate them. We just recognize them, identify them, and I would say, bless how they've served us to this point, and then release them. Remember, there's nothing in our life that isn't to be used for our growth and uplifting our consciousness. So as we say, we're living in a field of infinite potentiality. Consider starting each day by inviting the field of infinite possibilities to show you what it's got. And we've talked about the attitude of curiosity and awe. What could it be like if? Sometimes that's what it takes to work around our ego mind. Rather than direct confrontation with our ego mind, just be open to other possibilities. There's no question that our ego serves its purpose, has served its purpose, and continues in many respects. Originally, that ego was to keep us safe from the saber-toothed tiger. That physical mind is partly what I'm calling the ego. But now I think we're mostly beyond a concern for our safety in the 3D world, and we're progressing to other dimensions. So wake up and say, what else is possible? What great and magnificent things are unfolding in my life today? And if things seem bleak, just know that if God is good all the time, what good could this be bringing to me? As I keep mentioning, I said earlier today as well, my belief is that I live in a supportive universe. How can I allow the universe to support me in this instant? Ask for it. If the possibilities are endless, let me dream up some possibilities that will better serve me. I think these statements invite our mind to expand its vision so our perspective keeps getting bigger and bigger, and we keep getting happier and more joyous. How magnificent it is becoming. And it just so happened I was reading our Science of Mind Daily Reader, and I copied something out of there. This is Ernest Holmes said that he describes what is available to us. It's called God power. A power that knows neither lack, limitation, nor fear, sickness, disquiet, nor imperfection. Holmes further wrote, the wall that keeps you from your greater good is built of mental blocks, cemented together by fear and unbelief, mixed in the mortar of negative experience. It is not necessary that impoverishment and pain must accompany you in your experience. He says, this is not necessary. Each repetition helps dismantle our resistance to higher good, removing one more fear, one more block of fear, one more obstruction to the God power within us. And I would say the God power that is expressing through us. Just know that you are so loved. Come, sup at the feast. And so it is. So let's take this to prayer. We always start with acknowledging that the divine is all there is. The divine, Spirit, God, the universe plus. We are moving in this loving environment, just as we are moving in the air around us. And as we breathe that air, as we breathe that divinity in, it becomes a part of us. It becomes integrated into our very body and our soul. How special is that? There is nothing to fear. No matter what the external environment looks like, there is nothing to fear. You are blessed, you are supported, cherished beyond words. Imagine the feeling you have for your children or grandchildren or your pets if you don't have children. The greatest love you feel is merely a reflection of the love that the universe has for each of us. So open our hearts and let that love in. Let us express that love. Because love overcomes all things. love overcomes all of our limiting beliefs. This confidence that we walk in the light. So we take a moment and we think our friends and family who may be going through an experience that appears to be less than loving. We just know that the darkest is before the dawn. This too shall pass. The divine is moving through this experience and bringing forth greater and greater good. So as we set this prayer into motion, we release it. We know that the law, love, that the divine is working through this prayer, is working through everybody we can even think of. It's working through the entire universe. So we give great thanks for that. We accept that that is the truth of our being. We are grateful that we understand that. And we release it into the law and let it be done, even as we think. And so it is. And now we have music.
I think this song is in keeping with the thought. If you really knew who I am, you'd rise up in bliss. In a moment like this, oops. Oops, I made a boo-boo. I'm forgiving myself immediately. Okay. If you really knew who I am, you'd rise up in bliss. In a moment like this, you'd be set free. If you really knew who I am, you'd get off your knees, lay your body on the breeze, and then be healed. If you really knew who I am, your heart would burst with joy, like a baby with its toy. You'd know the moment, and you'd know love as you have never known love. And you'd be free. Oh, if you really knew who I am, your heart would burst with joy, like a baby with its toy. You'd know the moment. If you really knew who I am, your soul would skim the tide. Like an eagle, it would glide its way back home. And you'd know love as you have never known love, and you'll be free. Oh, if you really knew who I am, you'd fill every room with roses in bloom and shed glad tears. If you really knew who I am, there'd be candles aflame in the temple to my name, and there we'd pray. And you know love as you have never known love, and you'll be free. Oh, if you really knew who I am, you'd get off your knees, lay your body on the breeze, and then be free. If you really knew who I am, you'd look deep into my eyes. Then you'd realize that I am you. Then you'd realize that I am, then you'd realize that if you really knew who I am.
Thanks a lot, Teresa. As we acknowledge and receive our virtual and in-person gifts, we give great thanks for the offerings already given and those we will be receiving, because we know that giving and receiving are both part of one flow. We affirm that we are also part of that flow. We bless these gifts and know that they are multiplied throughout our community. There is a number of folks who have contributed to the production of this service. We are grateful for their service, and we thank you for joining us today. And lastly, stay around in the Zoom meeting after the service to visit or join us in the Burlbaw Social Hall. Please stand if you are able and read with me the benediction, followed by our congregational song. Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. Joy, peace, and eternal life are our true nature and flow through us into the world, and so it is.